How did General George S. Patton respond when a defiant American officer radioed, "You'll have to kill me," as a surrounded battalion refused to surrender? This is the story of a 48-hour standoff that shocked both Allied and German commands. A forgotten chapter of the Battle of the Bulge, where the fate of an entire division hung in the balance. It is December 20th, 1944. The Ardennes Forest, Belgium. The 101st Airborne Division, battered but unbroken, is encircled in the besieged town of Bastogne. The German 5th Panzer Army, under General Otto von Manschenfeld, has unleashed a ferocious assault, aiming to split the Allied lines and seize Antwerp. The 327th Glider Infantry Regiment, led by Colonel Joseph H. Harper, holds a critical sector on Bastogne's southern perimeter. Among them, the 2nd Battalion, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel John T. Jack Winters, faces annihilation. As the snow falls and the enemy closes in, a single radio message will ignite a chain of events that will test the limits of courage, leadership, and resolve. The Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last great gamble in the West, has thrown the Allied front into chaos. On December 16, 1944, 3 German armies surged through the Ardennes, catching the Americans off guard. Bastogne, a vital crossroads town, becomes the linchpin of the German advance. If Bastogne falls, the road to Antwerp lies open. The 101st Airborne, rushed in by truck, arrives just hours before the German encirclement. Among its ranks are men like Private First Class James Red O'Malley, a farm boy from Iowa, and Staff Sergeant William Bill Carter, a veteran of Normandy and Market Garden. Their commander, Colonel Harper, is a no-nonsense leader, respected for his calm under fire. Opposing them is the elite 26th Volksgrenadier Division, reinforced by elements of the 15th Panzer Grenadier Regiment and the dreaded Panzerlehr Division. They bring with them the latest in German armor, Panther tanks, Jagdpanzer IVs, and the fearsome 88mm flak guns. By December 19th, Bastogne is surrounded. Supplies dwindle. The men of the 327th dig in, bracing for the storm. The temperature plunges below freezing. Snow blankets the foxholes. The only lifeline is the radio, crackling with desperate pleas for ammunition, food, and medical supplies. For the men of the 2nd Battalion, the stakes could not be higher. Their sector, a wooded ridge south of Bastogne, is the last barrier between the Germans and the town. If they break, Bastogne falls. By 0500 hours, December 20th, the first probing attacks begin. German infantry, clad in white camouflage, moves silently through the trees. The Americans, low on ammunition, hold their fire until the enemy is just 50 yards away. Then, the night erupts in muzzle flashes and the staccato rattle of M1 Garands. At 0730 hours, a heavy artillery barrage slams into the American lines. The ground shakes. Trees splinter. Men huddle in their foxholes as shrapnel whistles overhead. Private O'Malley clutches his rifle, his breath freezing in the air. It felt like the end of the world, he would later recall. By 0900 hours, German tanks appear. Panthers, their iron hulls glistening with frost. The 2nd Battalion's lone 57mm anti-tank gun opens fire, scoring a direct hit on the lead vehicle. But more follow. The Americans fall back, yard by yard, to their secondary positions. Colonel Harper radios division headquarters. "We are holding, but barely. Request immediate resupply and reinforcements." The reply is grim. Negative on reinforcements. Hold at all costs. By 1100 hours, the Germans launch a coordinated assault. Mortar shells rain down. Machine gun fire rakes the trenches. Staff Sergeant Carter leads a counterattack, rallying his men with a shout. "No one gets through us." They repel the first wave, but casualties mount. Medics work frantically, their hands numb with cold. At 1300 hours, a German officer approaches under a white flag. He delivers an ultimatum: surrender or be destroyed. Colonel Harper's response is terse. "Nuts." The word echoes through the ranks, a symbol of defiance. But the Germans are undeterred. By 1400 hours, they mass for another assault. Over 600 infantry, supported by 6 Panthers and a battery of Nebelwerfer rocket launchers, prepare to storm the ridge. Inside the command post, Lieutenant Colonel Winters gathers his officers. "We hold this line, or we die trying," he says. The men nod, fear and determination etched on their faces. As dusk falls, the temperature drops to -10 degrees Celsius. The wounded shiver in their blankets. Rations are down to a handful of crackers and a few cans of beans. Ammunition is counted bullet by bullet. By 1800 hours, the Germans attack again. This time, they break through the outer defenses. The Americans fall back to their final line, just 200 yards from the town's edge. By midnight, December 21st, the situation is desperate. The 2nd Battalion is cut off, surrounded on 3 sides. Radio contact with division headquarters is sporadic. The Germans, sensing victory, demand surrender once more. It is then that Lieutenant Colonel Winters, battered and bloodied, sends his fateful message: "You'll have to kill me. We're not surrendering." The words electrify the battalion. For the next 6 hours, the men fight with everything they have. Grenades, bayonets, even entrenching tools are pressed into service. The snow is stained red. The cries of the wounded echo through the trees. At 0300 hours, a German assault team breaches the perimeter. Private O'Malley, out of ammunition, tackles a German soldier, wrestling him to the ground. Staff Sergeant Carter is hit by shrapnel but refuses evacuation. "I'm not leaving my men," he growls. By 0400 hours, the battalion's casualties exceed 40%. The medics, led by Corporal Samuel Weiss, work by flashlight, improvising tourniquets from torn uniforms. The dead are stacked in the corners of the aid station, their faces frozen in grimaces of pain. The Germans bring up flamethrowers, setting the woods ablaze. Smoke and fire turn night into hell. The Americans fall back to a small farmhouse, their last stronghold. Inside, Colonel Harper radios Patton's 3rd Army. "We are surrounded. Situation critical. Request immediate relief." Patton, 30 miles to the south, receives the message. He turns to his staff. "We're going to break through or die trying." At dawn, December 22nd, the sound of engines rumbles in the distance. Patton's 4th Armored Division, led by General Hugh Gaffey, has been driving north through snow and ice, fighting every mile. Their Shermans, battered and low on fuel, push forward with grim determination. By 0800 hours, the first American tanks appear on the horizon. The men of the 2nd Battalion, exhausted and nearly out of ammunition, watch in disbelief as the cavalry arrives. Patton's orders are clear: relieve Bastogne at all costs. The 37th Tank Battalion, under Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, spearheads the assault. They smash through German roadblocks, their 76mm guns blasting enemy positions. Infantry from the 53rd Armored Infantry Battalion dismount and charge forward, bayonets fixed. The Germans, caught off guard, scramble to redeploy. Panther tanks duel with Shermans at point-blank range. The roar of engines, the crack of rifles, and the thunder of artillery fill the air. By 1000 hours, the relief column reaches the farmhouse. The battered survivors of the 2nd Battalion emerge, blinking in the pale winter sun. Tears stream down their faces. Some collapse in the snow, overcome by exhaustion and relief. Patton himself arrives hours later, his ivory-handled revolvers gleaming. He surveys the scene, his face grim. "You boys did good," he says quietly. "No one could have done better." The 2nd Battalion is saved, but at a terrible cost. In the aftermath, the full scale of the battle becomes clear. Of the 600 men who held the line, fewer than 350 remain fit for duty. The rest are dead, wounded, or missing. The Germans suffer over 800 casualties, their advance blunted. For their actions, Lieutenant Colonel Winters is awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. Staff Sergeant Carter receives the Silver Star. Corporal Weiss, the medic, is posthumously awarded the Bronze Star for valor. The defense of Bastogne becomes legend. Patton's relief of the town is hailed as one of the greatest feats of arms in American history. The 101st Airborne earns the Presidential Unit Citation. The phrase, "nuts," becomes a symbol of American defiance. But for the men who fought and bled in the snow, the cost is measured in more than medals. The memory of those 48 hours, the fear, the pain, the loss, will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Yet, in the darkest hour, they stood firm. Against impossible odds, they refused to surrender. Their courage turned the tide of battle and helped seal the fate of Hitler's last offensive in the West. This was just one of countless untold stories from the Second World War. Subscribe to World War II Records as we continue to bring these forgotten chapters of history back to life.